and welcome to the English Health Podcast. I'm Laura, and I'm so excited to have you here with me today. Whether you're tuning in to improve your English or to learn new ways to take care of your health, you're in the right place. In today's episode, we're talking about something incredibly important: mental wellness. Our minds need just as much care as our bodies, and building healthy habits can make all the difference. I'm going to share with you some simple but powerful daily habits that can improve your mental well-being, reduce stress, and help you feel more balanced. Let's dive in and explore how you can take small steps every day toward a healthier mind.
Hey everyone, ready to dig into something really interesting? We're talking atomic habits for better mental health, those small but consistent changes that can really make a difference over time.
It's amazing how those tiny tweaks to our daily routines can snowball into these huge impacts on our mental well-being.
Absolutely. And we've got some really great material to work with today, right? We've got that therapy in a nutshell YouTube video, Atomic Habits for Mental Health. And then we've got this super insightful article from Healthline, 8 Daily Habits to Boost Mental Health and Signs It May Be Time to Get Support.
It's cool how both of them kind of challenge that fixed mindset around mental health. Like people think you either have depression or you don't, but it's not that black and white.
It's so true. I remember that line from the video. It's like, most people think you either have depression or you don't. It's almost like they think it's a light switch or something.
Right. But mental health is more of a spectrum, and we all move along it, having our ups and downs. The power of these atomic habits is recognizing that even small changes can create big shifts on that spectrum.
That makes me think of that British cycling team story in the video, the one from Atomic Habits. They were like the worst team, but then their new coach comes in, and instead of some crazy overhaul, they start making these tiny 1% improvements.
Like they even used a special paint on their team vans just to keep the bikes cleaner, which sounds kind of wild, but it was all part of this philosophy of small changes adding up.
And it worked. They went from worst to first, all because there's little tweaks.
That's the power of those small changes adding up over time. Like if you could find a way to have just 1% more energy every day, by May, you would have 72 extra minutes compared to January.
Wait, 72 minutes, seriously?
It's true. Small wins build on each other.
I love that. And that leads us right into the habits themselves. What really jumped out at you from the sources?
Which ones resonated with you? I'm curious.
So many. Okay, that light therapy thing from the video is super interesting. They said it can be as effective as antidepressants in certain cases. What's the science behind that?
Well, it's not just tricking your brain. It actually influences your brain's production of serotonin and melatonin, which are those key hormones for mood and sleep. Just a few minutes each morning can make a difference.
Wow. And the article was big on sleep. They had that stat about how people who consistently sleep 6 hours or less are like 2.5 times more likely to have frequent mental distress. It makes you think twice about that late night TV binge, right?
Sleep is so crucial, but it's one of the first things people sacrifice. But when you're sleep deprived, your brain can't process emotions or cope with stress as well. It's like anything else, you've got to recharge.
Totally. Okay, so we've got light sleep. And the article also mentioned gratitude and spending time in nature. Are those backed by science, or are they more like nice to haves?
Oh, they're definitely backed by science. There's a ton of research on gratitude and its effects on well-being. It shifts your focus to what you have, which can bring a sense of contentment and nature. Even a few minutes of micronature can help.
Micronature. What is that? Like having a cactus on your desk. I'm from Iowa, so nature for me is mostly cornfields.
Well, I wouldn't recommend a cornfield in your living room, but you're on the right track. Micronature is about bringing tiny bits of nature into your everyday life, like looking at photos of nature, having a plant, or even just listening to recordings of nature sounds.
I love that, especially if you don't have a lot of nature around you. And they even talked about telling someone you appreciate them every day as a form of gratitude, which is something I think you, who values relationships so much, could really get behind. Simple, actionable, and right up your alley.
And that's what it's all about, finding what fits your values and preferences. For some people, nature might be their thing. For others, it's more about connection. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
So true. It's got to be something you enjoy. And speaking of setting yourself up for success, both the video and the article talked about how important that is. The video even said, create a system to make the new action easier over time. What does that actually mean in a practical sense?
It's about recognizing that motivation will only get you so far. You need a system to support those new behaviors.
So how do we do that? Spill the tea.
Well, think of it this way. You're designing your environment and habits to make the desired behavior the easiest choice. Like If you're trying to eat healthier but your kitchen is full of junk food, you're setting yourself up for a challenge.
It's like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of rocks. You're making it way harder than it needs to be.
Right. But if you stock up on healthy options and make them easy to grab, you're much more likely to make those choices naturally.
It's about being mindful and intentional.
Absolutely.
So it sounds like removing those temptations and setting ourselves up for those small wins is key.
Exactly.
And that's where those habit trackers come in, right? The video talked about those. And also Jerry Seinfeld's Don't Break the Chain method, where you mark a calendar every day you stick to your new habit.
Visual cues are so powerful. It's like giving your brain that visual reminder of your progress, which can be really motivating.
It's like you're creating a visual representation of your consistency, which can be super motivating.
Exactly.
Speaking of building momentum, what about that habit stacking strategy you mentioned? I'm super curious about that.
It's a good one. It's basically taking the new habit you want to build and linking it to something you already do consistently. So if you have a solid morning coffee routine, you might try incorporating a 5-minute gratitude practice right after you finish your coffee.
Oh, I like that. It's like you're piggybacking on an already established neural pathway.
Exactly.
So we've got a lot of great tips here. Light therapy, gratitude, sleep, nature. How do we choose where to start? It's a lot.
That's where the concept of low-hanging fruit comes in. Start with something that feels manageable and enjoyable to incorporate into your routine. You don't need to go from 0 to 60. Baby steps.
Okay, love it. Don't overthink it. So we've got our low-hanging fruit habit. We're keeping things enjoyable and personalized. What's next?
Consistency, consistency, consistency.
Consistency is key. Got it. Tell me more.
It's like learning a new language or an instrument. You don't become fluent overnight. You have to put in the time, the practice.
Oh, I'm terrible at both of those. But I get what you're saying. It's about showing up, even when you don't feel like it.
You got it.
So all those small efforts really do add up over time.
Absolutely. Just like those 1% changes the British cycling team made, they might have seemed insignificant at the time, but they added up to huge results.
It's so true. It's not about those big one-time efforts. It's those small, consistent steps. And knowing we have that power is so empowering. Right?
That's what it's all about, taking ownership of your well-being.
Love it. Okay, so you've got me thinking about those micro wins. I'm embracing consistency. But how do we take action? How do we bridge that gap from thinking about these atomic habits to actually putting them into practice?
Let's dive into that.
You know, it's funny, we often wait until things feel really overwhelming before even thinking about making changes to our routines or mindsets. But what I'm hearing is, with these atomic habits, we don't have to wait for a crisis, right?
That's a great point. It's not just about fixing something that's broken. It's about building strength and resilience proactively.
So it's like we're building up a buffer against stress and negativity instead of constantly playing catch-up.
Exactly. It's about being proactive with your well-being, making choices each day that support your mental health, rather than just reacting when things get tough.
I like that, being proactive. But I've got to be honest, with both the video and article throwing out all these suggestions, light therapy, gratitude, sleep, nature, I'm a little frozen on where to even begin. How do you pick which habit to focus on first?
Well, remember that low-hanging fruit idea from the video. Start with a habit that feels pretty doable, even enjoyable, to fit into your routine. Something you can score a quick win with.
Because those small victories can really get the ball rolling, right?
Exactly. That early momentum is huge. And, it might take a little experimenting. What works for your best friend might not be your jam, and that's okay.
So back to personalization. It's got to be something you actually enjoy, not another chore on your to-do list. Just like with those gratitude practices, it's got to be authentic.
Exactly. We want to build a lifestyle that truly supports your well-being long-term, not add more stress to your plate.
Okay, so we found our low-hanging fruit habit. We're focusing on enjoyment, keeping things personalized. What's the next step? I'm guessing consistency is going to be a biggie, wouldn't you say?
You're spot on. Consistency is super key here. It's like learning a new language or a musical instrument. You don't become fluent by practicing once a month, right?
You're speaking my language, literally. I'm terrible at learning new languages.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it. It's about those consistent actions over time, even when you're not feeling it.
That's the magic formula. It's showing up, even on the days you'd rather stay in bed.
I love that. The power of showing up, even when it's tough.
Yes, because all those little efforts really do add up over time, like compound interest.
It's like those tiny 1% changes the British cycling team made. They might have felt insignificant at the time, but look at the massive results they saw.
Exactly. It's the same principle with our mental health.
So those little things, like getting enough sleep, practicing gratitude for a few minutes, getting a little fresh air, they all matter, even if they seem small.
They all make a difference. They all contribute to that bigger picture of well-being.
Wow, that's encouraging and empowering. It's not about these huge Herculean efforts, it's the consistency, that dedication to those small daily practices that adds up over time.
And the best part is you have the power to choose. You get to decide what works for you and how you want to show up for your mental well-being.
That's what I love about all of this. It's about taking ownership. So we're thinking about those micro wins, we're embracing consistency. But how do we take action? How do we bridge the gap from just thinking about these atomic habits to actually making them stick?
Let's dig into that.
Okay, so how do we bridge that gap? How do we go from thinking about these atomic habits to actually putting them into practice, making them stick? Well, remember that creating a system thing from the video, that's a great place to start. It's all about making those positive choices as easy and frictionless as possible for ourselves.
Okay, I'm all about making things easier, but what does that look like in a practical sense? Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say you're trying to eat healthier, which we know can have a big impact on mental well-being too. If your pantry's stocked with chips and cookies, you're making it that much harder to resist those cravings when they hit.
Right. You're setting yourself up for a snack attack.
Exactly. But if you surround yourself with healthy, easy-to-grab options, you're naturally nudging yourself in the right direction.
So it's about being intentional with your environment, almost like you're designing your surroundings to support the choices you want to make. Precisely. And this goes for those mental health habits too, not just our eating habits. Like, if you want to start a daily meditation practice, don't just hope you'll remember each day. Set yourself up for success.
Oh, I like that. How so?
You can create a dedicated space in your home for meditation. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. Even just a corner of a room will do. Make it inviting, have your cushion or a comfy chair ready, maybe light a candle, use some essential oils. Those sensory cues can make a big difference.
Ooh, I love those sensory cues. Set the mood, right?
Exactly. You're creating a space that draws you in, so it's not just about mustering up willpower every time.
It's like you're building a little sanctuary for your mind.
Exactly.
And speaking of cues, what about those visual reminders we talked about earlier, like those habit trackers or the Jerry Seinfeld don't break the chain method? Those seem super helpful for staying motivated.
Visuals are powerful. Our brains love patterns. And that little boost you get from seeing a bunch of X's on your habit tracker, it can be really motivating, especially on those days when you're just not feeling it.
It's like a visual representation of your progress.
Exactly.
And that progress, no matter how small, can feel really good. It's like, hey, look at me, I'm doing the thing.
Exactly. Small wins lead to big wins. And you know that habit stacking strategy we talked about? That's another good one for make those new habits stick.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Basically, you're connecting the new habit you're trying to build to an existing part of your routine, something you already do consistently without even thinking about it. So let's say you have a really solid morning coffee routine. You could try tacking on a 5-minute gratitude practice right after you finish your coffee.
So smart. It's like you're tricking your brain into accepting this new habit as just part of the normal program.
That's a great way to put it. And as you start to experience those positive results, whether it's more energy, better sleep, less stress, those feelings become their own motivators.
It's like this upward spiral. The more you do it, the better you feel, and the better you feel, the more you want to keep doing it.
Exactly. And that's really what it's all about, right? Creating these positive feedback loops that support your well-being in these really sustainable ways.
I love that sustainable well-being because it shouldn't feel like a constant uphill battle. It's about finding what works and what feels good.
You got it. And it's about being patient with ourselves. Remember, these are atomic habits, so they're small by design. It's the consistency over time that makes the real difference.
Small shifts, big impact.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening, as you go about your day today, we have a little challenge for you. If you had a magic wand and you could effortlessly implement just one of these atomic habits for better mental health, which one would you choose and why? Let us know. Until next time, keep exploring these ideas, and remember, even the smallest actions can create incredible ripples in your life.
That's a great challenge. And remember, there's no right or wrong answer. It's all about finding what works for you. See you next time.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the English Health Podcast. I hope these daily habits inspire you to take better care of your mental wellness. Remember, small changes can lead to big results, so start where you are and be kind to yourself along the way. Bye for now.